This is Dean Young. He is the pastor at Potter's House, where we're at right now, down by the lake. And this congregation has been going for a couple of years now. Not here necessarily, but it started out in your house, right, Dean?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
We started Easter of last year, and so the first 6 months we met in our house, and until we could find a building, and we just we packed out our living room every Sunday, and then God opened a door for a building here, and so we're excited to be here in Longview.
First time I met you, actually, I don't even know if I don't think we ever talked about the fact that I was a pastor, but I met you. It was at Lake Sacagawea, and you were doing a magic show. And there were people all over the place that were kind of like, come on, and watch. I was really impressed with all the excitement there was, and the people that were part of your group who were trying to get people to come in and watch the magic show, and that is your magic show. That is your show that you do.
Yeah. I do a comedy magic show as one of our tools for evangelism, and so my pastor has always said, you either find a crowd and preach to them, or make a crowd and preach to them. And so we do whatever we can, and we have some pretty unique ways of drawing a crowd, but we do whatever we can to get some folks in a place where we can just share our testimony about what Jesus has done in our lives, and hopefully bring them to a decision. And so I don't remember. So interesting that you brought up the magic show, because when that was happening, and I've done a few of them here in town over the last 18 months, but we normally have some impact teams. We call them guerrilla teams that come from our sister churches, pastors that are part of our fellowship that are pastoring in other neighboring cities, and so they'll send impact teams to come in, and we'll kind of flood the city all day, outreach, witness, invite people out, and then the end of the day is usually the event, whether we're doing a concert or a barbecue or a magic show in this case, and do the show, and then at the end, always I try in every opportunity that I have in front of people to do an altar call. I try not to let that. I mean, if we're just there for entertainment, and I always tell people, listen, we're as much as I enjoy Christian entertainment, we're not here to entertain Christians. We're here to win people to Jesus. And in that, it's a lot of fun. We have a ton of fun. And so, the magic show is fun. It's a lot of fun. So I got saved in 2001 in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I was discipled there in the Potter's House Church in Coeur d'Alene under Pastor Chris Went for about 15 years. I'm also a nurse, and so I was actually doing some travel nursing at the time, back in 2012, 2013. And so I did some travel nursing for about 2 years. Long story short, my job landed me in Seattle. And so I ended up being grafted into one of our fellowship churches there in Federal Way. And that's where my wife and I planted ourselves, and we just served the church there. And I had, I felt a calling early on in my discipleship, probably first year or two of me being a new convert. I really felt like God had something for my life. And so, I had told my pastor, hey, this is how I want to direct my life to this. And so we ended up in Federal Way. We had a pastor change. My current pastor actually was a missionary in China for 4 years, and the Chinese government booted all of our missionaries they found a list of all of our missionaries.
Whoa.
And they went around to every city where we had a church plant. And so we had probably maybe 20 or 30 churches. I don't quote me on that number, but it was somewhere around there. And all of our American missionaries, we were kind of forced to indigenize the churches almost kind of in rapid succession.
Wow.
And so Most of the churches survived. A couple of them combined to try to keep going. And so my pastor came back from China and was asked to take over our church in Federal Way. And he came in, and I told him, like I've told my other two pastors, I'm here to be discipled. Whatever you need from me, I'm here to serve. If there's something you see in me that you need to deal with, then deal with it. And so, in the process of discipleship, there was a brother in the church who was actually from Longview. And his mom used to drive up to our church in Federal Way once or twice a month to come to church. She loved our church, and got her a chance to see the grandkids and everything. And so, and me and this guy, we became really, really good friends. And so his mom would come up, and she eventually passed away. And so my brother Richard, it was his mom who had passed away. He had said, "Hey, can we do the funeral in Longview? All of our family is in Longview."
Yeah.
And so I came down here with my pastor and a couple of folks from the church. We did a funeral here right at that funeral home on Mount Solo.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but we were out there, and a bunch of people came. My pastor preached the funeral and was there just serving. And then after the funeral, we were just driving through town. And, it was interesting. I was just watching people, and it just felt like I was just seeing like zombies.
Yeah.
People were just walking, but you could tell. I grew up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and both my parents were drug addicts. And so I can see drug addiction from a mile away.
Yeah.
And so I'm just seeing this. These people are just bound. And my pastor looked at me, and I could tell. I got to know my pastor over a few years. You could just see there was this kind of a glimmer in his eye. And he said, "Dean, this would be a great place to plant a church." And I just looked at him. I said, "Pastor, if you want us to come, we'll go." And so...
Isn't it amazing how God does that?
Yeah.
How he sets situations up that lead us into the thing that we're going to actually fall in love with at some point. And at the time, you don't know. You just saw a bunch of people who look like zombies, apparently. But here you are in Longview, and this is like home now.
It is. So when
Amazing.
I took a job in Vancouver at Southwest.
Yeah.
And as I'm driving out of town every day to go to work, the stoplight right there on Oregon Way and Tennant Way, just past that is like a tire store.
Right.
And at that stoplight, every morning I made it a point that I would pray the same thing every morning when I drove through that stoplight. And that was, "God, help me to love the people of Longview and to serve this community."
Yeah.
And I love this place. Absolutely love it. 1971, I believe, was when it became the Potter's House there in Prescott, Arizona. And for 50 years, we've been planting churches, discipling couples, training people in the local church, raising up workers, sending out, again, reproducing what's been produced in us. And so
you've really become a model for that. I mean, just the time I spent with you, you're describing yourself.
Yeah, I hope
really
so.
You really have been a disciple that whole. I mean, there's very few lead pastors who have a real evangelistic heart. I mean, all of us are welcome to have people come in that are seeking Jesus and seeking a relationship with God, but you actually go out and get them, which I don't know. I don't think that's real typical. It's not that most pastors don't have that heart, but to invest the amount of time that you have and energy you have in trying to go out and gather people into the church, and then you got to do something with them once they get here. So it's a lot of work, and you can see why most pastors typically stay home, because it's just a lot easier on your energy wise. But you spend yourself a lot, Dean, on seeing people in Longview come to Christ. Yeah,
and I think like we talked about earlier, I don't know that there's the only way I find the balance is by going to the extremes.
Right.
And I haven't always done it well. And so I think there's a reason, and like you said, there's a reason why a lot of pastors don't do that, is because of the amount of time, not because they don't love people.
Right.
You know, they love people.
Right.
They want to see people be won to Christ. So I don't doubt that one bit. But
Yeah.
you know what? Ultimately, what happens is time
Yeah.
and space, and everyone's got 24 hours in a day, and you have to try to figure out, God, what is it that you know, the best use of my time?
Well, you're true to your calling too. And I think there are some, not everybody has got that same intensity in their calling that go out. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a lot of different kinds of churches in a city,
Yeah.
a lot of different kinds of pastors in a city. The thing I'm grateful for is that you're true to your calling. You are who God created you to be. You're walking it out. Longview's benefiting from it because there's a congregation here in town who's serious about evangelism. And that's Potter's House.
Yeah, and that, you know, what I really am aiming to do is just reproduce what's been reproduced in me.
Yeah.
We have a heritage that I'm not trying to dig a well somewhere else. We have, you know, and again, I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. What has been birthed in me, I was saved doing the exact same thing. My pastor, disciples in the church, someone witnessed to me.
Yeah.
Someone told me about Jesus. I was a wreck. I had just gotten out of jail. I was living in my car. I had burned all the bridges with my family. You know, I'm suicidal. I'm depressed. And somebody witnessed to me. You know, it didn't happen in a church. I didn't.
Right.
And again, I know that there are sinners that find their way into churches, but the vast majority of what we would call sinners, people who aren't saved, they don't come into church. And
Most
unless
of them are co-workers and neighbors.
Yeah. Unless somebody tells them, then, you know, to assume that they're going to happen upon Jesus, I think is a little bit naive, and really I think it's blatantly ignorant. Like you're hoping that they happen upon salvation organically instead of the way Jesus designed it. He says you're going to have to go. You're going to have to go in the highways and the byways. Yeah. You're going to have to make your way into these places. He took his disciples in some of the places that we would never go into. Yeah. Like church people don't. Like I don't go to that part of town for a reason. But Jesus said, no, I'm purposely taking you here for a reason. I want you to see the desperation. I want you to see the hopelessness so that you will reach in there and provide the only hope that is available.
Yeah.
Disciple men.
So sit down with somebody and help them.
I want to see men, and this, I don't mean this. I'm trying to be very careful with the words because sometimes people view this as chauvinistic.
Yeah.
But men are the hope of the world.
Yeah. If
men will get a revelation about serving God, their wives and their kids will follow.
Yeah.
It doesn't go the other way around.
Yeah.
Women are more, in which it blows my mind that God set up the patriarchy like this, because women are so much smarter than us.
Yeah.
They're so much more spiritually in tune. They've just got everything together. It's like they're on the same wavelength as God. I understand why some people may think God is a woman. He's not. But I understand why they would think that. Women are just so much more in tune. But God, in his infinite wisdom, spoke to Adam.
Yeah.
And said, you are going to be the spiritual covering of this home.
Yeah.
And everything is going to flow through that. And this is why men, it's my passion is I want to see men get saved. I want to see men get serious about living for God. I want to see men be real men.
Right.
Not what we see nowadays. It's unfortunately what men are, what they are feigning to be. That's not what a real man is.
Right.
You got two opposite extremes. Either it's the soy latte man bun kind of effeminate male, or this toxic, just, I'm going to divide and conquer everything in my path. And it's just like, Jesus told husbands to love your wife like Christ loved the church.
Yeah.
And a lot of men love to submit to your husband as but they forget the part where Paul says,
Right.
you need to love your wife like Christ loved the church.
Yeah.
And that, for a man to love like Jesus loves,
Yeah.
that's one of the greatest challenges. So if I could do anything, like my greatest passion is I want to see men make it.
Grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a friend who showed me a card trick once, and this was, 5 years, 10 years after I was saved.
Yeah.
Showed me a card trick, and it was telling me that he was doing these as outreaches, and I was like, number one, the card trick blew me away. I was like, you have to show me how to do this. I have to learn.
Yeah.
And so he sent me some tapes, some VHS tapes with some different magic lessons and things like that. And I was just like, I was blown away. And I learned a couple of tricks. And my pastor was like, we were doing some family fun day type thing out in the park.
That's funny.
And I said, hey, I'll do a magic show. It was a disaster, but people got saved.
Does anything scare you?
I'm terrified.
I mean, you seem like you're fearless when it comes to new things.
It all terrifies me. I've been doing magic now for years, and my show is pretty polished. Like I try to add some new stuff in, every other show or something like that. But for the most part, like I can do it, but I still get terrified.
Well, you probably already know this, I'm sure, but you are a very different pastor.
Yes.
Dean, you are wired different than most pastors. You approach things with a different passion in a different area than most pastors do, and I know that because I know a lot of pastors. Yeah. Personally, I know a lot, and you're very different. But I just think Longview is better for it. Longview is better because you're here. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like the Lord saw a void that needed to be filled, and He brought you from Federal Way here through a funeral. Yeah. A very unlikely path, but I'm really glad you're here. I'm glad you're part of this community. I'm glad that you do what you do at the level that you do it, because it's going to make a difference. It's already making a difference, and I know you're just kind of getting started. It's like you said, it hasn't even been 2 years yet, but man, don't stop doing what you're doing. It's really important. It's really important for the community. It's important for the body of Christ here, and I'm excited to serve with you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that I had the chance to meet you personally. Yeah, it's been good.
We really hope today's episode was helpful. You'll find more resources and content to connect with other community leaders by going to our website, cityservecowlitz.org. So, it's been a joy to walk with you, and we'll see you soon.